All righty, folks, can we perhaps take our seats, please, while I put on my coat?
Recording in progress.
All right, folks, how we doing out there? We're looking pretty close. All right, so tonight, I think everyone is aware, we have a bit of a different agenda tonight, one I hope we're all looking forward to. I know I am. So the order is going to be a little bit different tonight. I intend to open the meeting, which I'm officially doing right now, because this is a regularly scheduled or irregularly scheduled, depending on how you look at it, meeting of the full city council. And I should say that online, we are joined by Councilors Krinsman, Irish, Block, and I believe that's it online. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, and Vice President Kalis, thank you for that. I don't see anyone else here on my list, but I'll come back to this. Oh, and there's Councilor Roach. Fantastic. Thank you. Oh, and now I see Councilor Bixby. All right, this is fun, but not terribly. All right, so we're going to get onto this evening. So the first thing I would like to do is invite Councilor Albright up to the podium. And I'd also like to suspend our rules or take a vote to suspend our rules to invite our dignitaries as well as our chorus inside the rail. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Fantastic. Can we get everybody inside the rail? And Susan, Councilor Albright, want to join me up here? Yeah, anywhere that makes sense for you is fine. All right, I'm handing this over to Councilor Albright for the fun portion of our discussion this evening.
Thank you, President Oliver. So we have a very special thing happening tonight. I had planned to do a commendation for Hubie Jones, who happens to be my next door neighbor. And it turned out that when Councilor Domabed found out about it, he said, I was a member of the Boston Children's Choir, which is going to be mentioned in this commendation, and I would love to have them come and sing a couple of songs in honor of Hubie Jones. So I think we'll start with one song from them, and then we'll share in the reading the commendation, and then we'll have a closing song from them. So please, go ahead and sing for us.
Let our
So before we read the commendation, we have some wonderful guests here tonight. Hubie is not here. He's having some health issues. He's right across the street. But we've talked, and he will be watching the YouTube video of this meeting, so he will get to see it. So we have here Tanya Clark Jones, who is Hubie's youngest daughter, and there were 8 of them, 8 children. My next door neighbors was always a busy place. We have Charlene Morel Smith, who is one of the also a co-founder of the Boston Children's Choir. We have Claudia Mathis, is that right? Mathis, who is the co-chair, the current co-chair of the Boston Children's Choir, and Jessica Chen, who's the director of advancement. And thank you so much for coming. So this, as I said, this is for Hubert Eugene Hubie Jones on the occasion of his being awarded an honorary doctorate in humane letters from Boston University.
Whereas Hubert Jones served as one of the most influential scholars and activists for the underrepresented communities in Massachusetts throughout his long career in public service, and whereas Hubert Jones served as the director of the Roxbury Multi-Service Center, a national model for neighborhood-based social services, and
whereas Hubert Jones worked to investigate the exclusion of thousands of physically and mentally disabled students from attendance at Boston Public Schools led to the passage of the Massachusetts Special Education and Bilingual Education Laws, and whereas Hubert Jones was the first African American appointed to a deanship at Boston University, and
whereas Hubert Jones was a pivotal founding board member of City Year, an educational nonprofit organization designed to bridge the gap in under-resourced public schools while developing the next generation of civic leaders. And whereas Hubert Jones founded the Boston Children's Chorus, which since 2003 has served thousands of young people from the Boston area and many from Newton, based on the idea that young people making music together across ethnic and socioeconomic backgrounds can be a force for social good and social justice. And
whereas Hubert Jones and his wife Kathy, also a member of the Newton School Committee at one point, have lived in and raised their family in Newton since 1961. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Newton honor and congratulate Hubert Jones on the occasion of his receipt of an honorary doctorate of humane letters from Boston University, and wishes Hubie and his family continued good health and happiness for years to come. This resolution offered on the 10th day of August 2026 by Councilors Albright, Lucas, Mickley, and Damabed on behalf of the entire City Council. So thank you very much. And we have a final song from the choir.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. Mayor. It's going to be a hard act to follow, but we'll give it a shot. We'll give it a shot. Thank you. All right, folks, so just as a recap, I think I've got a different list online. Councilors joining us online. I see Councilors Krinsman, Block, Irish, Roach, Kalis, and now Farrell. And with that, I believe we have a full city council. Is that correct? Fantastic. So just a couple of our housekeeping items. We are being both audio and video recorded. I've talked about the folks who are online. Those of you who are using computers or other devices from inside the chamber, please make sure you're muted to avoid feedback. As the clerk mentioned in his email to everyone earlier today, we're going to keep pushing on this one. But in September, both of our council meetings have been shifted off of the Monday to the day following. So we have meetings on Tuesday, September the 8th, as well as Tuesday, September the 22nd. Now that I think we've mentioned that 8 times, we'll see how many of us get that right. Small challenge for us there. All right. Still louder? All right, I'll keep going. Sorry if I get too quiet. I'm trying to avoid the explosive P sound here. All right, with that said, let's get right into first call. I believe we have, we're not going to do Pledge Allegiance this evening because we've already had some entertainment going our way. Thank you, though. So jumping into first call, I'm going to start with land use. Councilor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Land Use Committee report starts on your page 156. On July 21st, the Land Use Committee met. We have the first item, it was going to be on second call tonight. Second item was held. Third item was approved. It is item number 228-26, request to exceed FAR at 33 Aspen Ave, and that was approved 7-1. I would, though, also like to ask to set some public hearings.
Please proceed.
Thank you. I would like to set these all for August 25th. Item 257-26, which is a request to exceed FAR and further extend non-conforming facade ratio, stories, and front setback at 99 Oakdale Road. Item 258-26, which is a request to change from an existing non-conforming residential use to another to allow 4 residential units on E building, with the City Council determining appropriate density and dimensional controls to allow reduced maneuvering aisle and driveway width, and to allow parking within the setback at 395 Lexington Ave. And finally, also for August 25th, item 259-26, which is a request to allow a combination of retaining walls exceeding 4 feet in height at 83 Commonwealth Park West. Thank you.
Thank you. For zoning and planning, Councilor Baker.
Apologies, Mr. President. I think there was one more item from land use on page 158 at the bottom of the next meeting, 226-26.
That is correct. Newell Road.
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Sorry, item 226-26 on page 158. I don't think we got that into the record.
Oh, in fact, I didn't do anything on page 157. Sorry, Councilor Krinsman, which one exactly are you asking about?
Item 226-26.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that was.
Just so you know, 225-26 was held.
Yeah, sorry. I do see that. It was not in my other notes. Sorry, I'm requesting public hearing for 226-26, request to exceed FAR at 43 Newell Road. All set? Oh,
Actually, the way I read it, I think land use approved the item.
I see that. It was approved 6-0. I'm just, sorry, confused about a few other things on this page, but we're done with that part. Thank you.
Anything we need to address right now?
No, I see that they've been held and are referred for later. I just didn't see that on my notes, so sorry.
It happens. You all set?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Councilor Baker for zoning and planning.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Zoning and Planning Committee report actually begins on page 158, but the three items to report for action tonight on first call is 19326, the reappointment of Michael Alperin to the Newton Affordable Housing Trust, and 19426, reappointment of Judy Weber to the Newton Affordable Housing Trust. And then finally, 24426, the appointment of Catherine M. Ferrick as Director of Planning. And if I could just spend a minute to indicate we're very grateful to her for taking on this responsibility. There's an extensive conversation with her that is part of the Zoning and Planning Committee report, and attached to the agenda for that meeting is her resume. And I hope that members of the council have not yet had a chance to meet her, but you will have that opportunity very soon. And I want to welcome her as chair of the committee that works with her very closely to the city, and hope that all of the opportunities that she has are fulfilled. And with that, I move the report.
Thank you. For programs and services, Councilor Krinsman.
Thank you, Mr. President. The report begins on page 159. The Programs and Services Committee met on July 15th. The first few items are held, but item 192-26, the appointment of Cynthia Wayne to the Human Rights Commission, was approved by a vote of 7-0. Item 245-26, a request to set early voting hours for the September 1st, 2026 state and federal primary election, was approved, but with a change on Tuesday, August 25th by extending the hours to 8 p.m. That was approved by a vote of 7-0. And item 246-26, a request to set early voting hours for the November 3rd state and federal general election, was approved with a similar change by amending the Tuesday, October 20th hours rather than ending at 5 p.m. to end at 8 p.m. And similarly, Wednesday, October 28th, by extending those hours instead of ending at 5 p.m., ending at 8 p.m. Want to quickly mention that in September, when the Programs and Services Committee takes up charter reform again, we expect to be looking at the article dealing with the composition of the city council, if folks are interested. So that will likely be during one of our September meetings. With that, I would move the report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. For public safety and transportation, Councilor Lucas.
Thank you, President Oliver. The report begins on page 161. The committee met on July 23rd. We had one item that was held. We met again on July 29th. Only thing to report out is 223-26 for Reed Isavyev requesting a new public auto license. That was withdrawn without prejudice in a vote of 7-0. We met again on, we've been busy. We met again on August 5th, and again that item was held. That concludes the report. I do have one announcement to make, and that is the committee is going to meet again on Wednesday, August 26th, and that will be our last and only remaining meeting in the month of August. And the only item on the agenda for that day as of right now is the overnight parking ban. Thank you, and that concludes the report.
Thank you. For public facilities, Councilor Getz.
Thank you, Mr. President. The public facilities report begins on page 163, and we met on July 22nd with one item to report out from that evening, docket item number 222-26. We approved a grant of location 6-0 with one abstention. On Prescott Street, the item number is 222-26, as I mentioned. I'd like to ask for a suspension of the rules to be able to report out one item that was discuss this evening. It's the item that
I
we
assume there's no written report for this item?
Correct. It's item number 221-26. The CPC recommendation to approve $232,000 for the cupolas and windows at City Hall.
We need a suspension of the rules. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Please proceed.
Okay, so we met this evening, and I'd like to report out that we approved the item 5 with 2 opposed and with 1 absence. And it's to be approved as amended in the sense of we had to switch the account number that it's getting pulled from. And with that, I move the report.
Great, thank you very much. For Finance, Councilor Grossman.
Thank you, Mr. President. The report begins on page 164. Our first item, 209-26, the appointment of Ryan McLaughlin to the Financial Audit Advisory Committee was approved 6-0. Item 220-26, the reappointment of Alexander B. Jeblon to the Financial Audit Advisory Committee was approved 6-0. For the next item, I do need to request to poll my committee. This is item 221-26, the CPC recommendation to appropriate $232,000 for the cupolas and windows at City Hall. At the time of our meeting, it was approved with the account number as written here in the docket as 4-0-1. But tonight at Public Facilities, that account number was amended so that the funds would come from the historical preservation account within the CPA bucket and not the unrestricted reserve fund. So if I could please poll my committee, Mr. President.
I think that just requires a simple suspension of the rules, correct? I believe.
Probably so. May I have a suspension of the rules to poll my committee?
We need a quick suspension of the rules so that we may poll the Finance Committee. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Fantastic. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. Finance Committee members present, if you are in favor of changing the account designation so that these funds come from the historical section of our CPA funds as opposed to the unrestricted bucket of CPA funds, please raise your hand.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I think that's 8-0. Thank you very much. Then we have a couple other items. Number 237-26, the appointment of Christopher Bresky to the John C. Chafin Educational Fund was approved 6-0. Item 240-26, a request to accept a grant of $19,500 from AARP was approved 5 in favor, none opposed, and 1 abstention. And finally, item 243-26 was a request to accept and expend a grant of $218,708 for the city's fiber optic network, and that was approved 6-0. With that, I move the report.
Thank you. For Real Property Reuse, Councilor Maliki.
There is no report.
Super. Can we do a roll call vote for the first call items, please?
Councilor Albright.
Aye.
Councilor Baker.
Aye.
Councilor Bixby.
Aye.
Councilor Block.
Aye.
Councilor Charm.
Aye.
Councilor Damabad.
Aye, except for number 221-26, on which I vote no.
Councilor Farrell.
Aye.
Councilor Getz.
Aye.
Councilor Golden. Councilor Gordon. Councilor Greenberg.
Aye.
Councilor Grossman.
Aye.
Councilor Irish.
Aye.
Councilor Kalis.
Aye.
Councilor Kelly.
Aye.
Councilor Krinsman.
Aye.
Councilor Leary.
Aye.
Councilor Lucas.
Aye.
Councilor Maliki.
Aye.
Councilor Mickley.
Aye.
Councilor Roach.
Aye, with the exception of 228-26, for which I vote no for the reasons I stated in committee, and 221-26, for which I vote no.
Councilor Silber.
Aye.
Councilor Wright.
Aye.
President Oliver.
Aye.
On this vote, the ayes are 24, the nays are 0. There are exceptions noted. There are 2 exceptions to 221-26 and 1 exception to 228-26. The votes there are 22-2 on 221-26 and 23-1 on 228-26. Motion carries.
Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to move along to second call. We have 2 items on second call. Those are items 104-26 and item 130-26. Simply so that I can participate in the conversation for 104-26, I've asked Councilor Baker to come on up and join us to take over the gavel for this item. Thank you.
All right. Yep. All right. Thank you, Mr. President. So, colleagues, we have an item that was reported at the last meeting and then chartered, but I think the custom is that when the item is chartered, that the counselor who had chartered the item, I would recognize first and then go to the chair of the committee. I can't see behind me. So.
Yeah, that's Councilor Block.
Councilor Block.
Thank you, Councilor Baker. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
60 Brookside is a 3,272 square foot 2-family house, which was sold 10 months ago for $1,616,000. The special permit before us proposes to build 4 residential units with a total of 9,138 square feet. I asked a real estate appraiser to assess what these 4 units will sell for. His answer is between $1.4 and $1.6 million. What is proposed at 60 Brookside is that 2 housing units of 1,600 square feet that are worth about $800,000 each are to be replaced with 4 housing units of 2,300 square feet that will each sell for about $1.5 million. These numbers tell an interesting story. This plan will not make Newton more affordable. In fact, it does the opposite. It will make the housing at 60 Brookside more expensive than it is now, and consequently, it will make Newton less diverse, not more so. I've heard several city councilors and some abutters express concern that if this plan is not approved, that a larger and more expensive houses will be built by right. I agree that is a possibility. It's also possible that a 3-unit development will be proposed. It's even possible that the developer will sell the house as is and move on to other projects that are more lucrative. In short, the future is unpredictable. However, what is absolutely clear to me is that demolishing the current 2-family house at 60 Brookside and replacing it with 4 somewhat larger units runs counter to Newton's housing goals. On policy grounds, I cannot support this plan. However, as I said in committee, as the special permit granting authority, we are required to make certain determinations, including whether this plan will have an adverse impact on the neighborhood. Every parcel on this street has a 1 or 2-family home. 60 Brookside would be the first parcel to have 4 housing units. This increased density by itself will have an adverse impact on the neighborhood. Further, this will certainly not be the last such proposal. If you are looking for another adverse impact, look no farther than the parking layout in the basement. The current structure at 60 Brookside has easily accessible off-street parking. The proposed basement parking is so congested that people will, in my opinion, avoid using it whenever possible. Thus, up to 8 more vehicles will park on the street, making it more congested and more hazardous than it is now. To my mind, this proposal just does not add up. It's bad housing policy, and it's bad for the neighborhood. I will be voting against this. Thank you, Mr. Acting President.
Thank you. Let's hear from, at this point, the customary, the chair of land use who reported. Is there any other hand up? I want to make sure I don't miss someone.
When this first came on second call, I read everybody the whole report. I think we've been over.
I'm sorry, can you speak a little closer to the mic? I just couldn't hear you.
Yes.
Thank you.
When this was first on second call, I read the full report, and I think most of us have been through it all. I'm just going to highlight a few of the details from the Land Use Committee process. This proposal has gone through several site plan and building configuration changes since it first came to us in October 2025 in response to neighborhood and land use committee input. Perhaps all committee members and neighbors thought that the design is attractive. It fits with the character of the neighborhood. It gives the appearance of a single or two-family home. Is set back quite far from the street, similar to most of the other homes on the street. Resident parking for 2 cars per unit in the building is below grade. Councilor Block referred to them as basement. I would just say they're in garages. After moving the location and reducing the square footage of the structures, a waiver for side setbacks is still required. It's a long, narrow site. But the structure itself, the house is set back over 55 feet from the street. This passed well in land use, and I still support it. I think it's an excellent project. Of all the many I've seen in my 9 years on the Land Use Committee, I will still be voting in favor.
Thank you. Who else? Councilor Wright, I recognize.
Unless someone convinces me otherwise, I'm voting no on 60 Brookside. There are 4 reasons. First, the people most directly affected by this project are opposed to it. We received a lot of emails, some supporting the project, some opposing it, some residents who changed their minds, then they changed their minds again. Last week, I mapped out the emails from the residents who opposed the project. What was striking was that the people who live next to the project or directly across from it were opposed. The support was generally from people further down the street or on other streets who would not experience the immediate impact. That matters to me, and the biggest issue for me is the setbacks. Second, this is a new construction project. There is a clean slate. When you're building from scratch, I think we should expect the building to be designed within the setback requirements. Hence, the applicant is asking to reduce the setbacks with the entire left side of the building approximately 15 feet into the setback and the right side approximately 10 feet into the setback. That is significant. Look at 157 Langley, which is now 2 to 6 Knolls. It's a very similar size lot, about 14,600 square feet compared with 15,385 square feet at Brookside. Yet they were able to build 3 units and keep the entire project within the 25-foot setback. If they could do that on a similarly sized lot, I think we should be asking why 4 units at Brookside cannot be designed to respect the setback. Third, we have already made decisions about where we want density in Newtonville and West Newton. Newton has rezoned much of nearby Washington Street and its major arteries for higher density. There are already more than 1,000 units built, in process, or in the planning stages along a little over a mile on Washington Street and the major arteries. This is where I believe we should be putting our additional density in Newtonville and West Newton, on the major corridors, not on residential side streets. I support housing, I support additional density, but I don't believe that means every residential side street should double or more increase their density. Fourth, I'm uncomfortable with the by right argument being used as a leverage against the council. We've heard the argument that if we don't approve this special permit, the developer can build the by right project. We all know that. The applicant showed us what that by right project could look like. It pushes the limits on setbacks, FAR, and other zoning constraints, and it's a modern building which is very different from the 1865 home surrounded by other older homes which is being proposed. I've been analyzing more than 400 teardowns since 2021. Take 2 to 6 Knowles as an example. That property was initially purchased for $1.475 million. The 3 resulting condos sold for a combined $7.12 million. I don't think 2 units here would be as profitable on this lot versus 3 or 4. Is all this additional relief necessary to make this project financially viable, or does the special permit primarily make the project more profitable? When we're talking about a clean slate development on a residential side street, on a large lot, large enough to accommodate 3 units, I think we should expect the developer to design the building to respect the setbacks. I would also like to see workforce housing, but that's something I cannot require. So unless I hear something that changes my mind, particularly about why this much setback relief is necessary and what alternatives were considered, I tend to vote no on 60 Brookside.
Thank you. Others wish to be recognized. Councilor Gordon and Councilor Albright.
Thank you, Chair. I'm really torn on this because I think that the design is exactly what we would like to see in Newton. I think it's beautifully done. I don't have a problem with there being 4 units, but I do have an issue with them going into the setback, and I would have preferred that
sorry,
they...
you just hold up. What did you say? I just couldn't hear that. You have an issue with what?
With them going into the setback. I would just echo what Pam has just said. Can people not hear me? Okay, sorry, the little fuzzy thing is gone.
Yeah, just hold it up a little closer to...
Okay. So I'm torn because I like the design. I live around the corner from Knowles, which is what Pam was just referring to, and it's a really beautifully well-done project, and I would like to see more of those in our neighborhoods and fewer of the giant white and black 2-family houses, which also exist in my neighborhood and are, you know, I call them on steroids. However, the units that are being put in that the setback allows them to do are all really big units. They range from 2,000 to 2,300 to 2,400 to, I think I was told, 2,600 square feet. And I think we need smaller units. I think we should be sending a message. And when I think about the people who voted for me, and I think about the residents who live there, I think that we need to keep those neighbors in mind. So I don't know if I have to state here whether I'm voting yes or no yet. I'm struggling with this, and so.
Just to clarify, the rules indicate that if you intend to vote no, you should state your reasons so that if the item does not prevail, the clerk can prepare a board order or a council order that reflects the adverse concerns. So, but you now have to declare yourself at this point, that's all.
Should I vote no, it's because I think the units are too big, and I would have preferred them not to go into the setback. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Albright is next, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Acting President. So, probably should have read this first, but that's okay. As I've gotten to know all of you, my colleagues on the council, and some of you I've known for a long time, and some of you I've known for only 6 months, I've learned that this is a body of smart people and that we care about the people in Newton. We care about our constituents, and we care about their families, and I appreciate all of you. When we discuss an item like Brookside, I know that we all have in our minds, the housing issue that's being addressed in a very small way on Brookside.
Sorry, can you just get a little closer to the mic?
Yes.
Thank you.
The housing issue, it feels very loud when I do that, but okay, is a problem that we have in our state and across our country. I hope that when push comes to shove, or perhaps when push comes to vote, that we will pass this project because we know that it alone won't solve the crisis. It alone won't make Newton more affordable, but it will be serving as a model for how we can make housing in Newton more affordable. When Councillor Block talked about the houses selling for 1.5 million, that sounds like a lot of money, and I agree, it is a lot of money. But all the new houses in Newton these days are selling for $4, $5, $6, and $7 million. So that is the context of these units. These are not big units. 2,000 square feet is considered a small unit for the new houses that are being built in Newton now. We have a developer who created a building that fits with the neighborhood. He created 4 more units that are more affordable than the 3,000 or 4,000 square foot units that will come by right, most likely, if we don't approve this. The developer was responsive to the land use committee. They said the first project was too big. He made it smaller by 1,000 square feet. He also took 1 unit out of the main building and put it as a carriage house. And the main building and carriage house is a model of kinds of buildings that we have in Newton all over the city. The setbacks are better from the neighbors. We've had a lot of talk about setbacks. I want to be clear. The developer took the advantage of having a single family attached kind of building type. That type of building requires a 25-foot setback on all sides. The MR1 setback, where this unit is, requires a 7.5-foot setback. For them to have a 25-foot setback on the sides of this building would be ridiculous. It's not possible. It makes no sense. And so frankly, we should probably change that ordinance. But
Councillor Albright, I think you've run out of time, at least as the counselor up here. So
can I have another 2 minutes?
Councillor Albright has asked for an additional 2 minutes. Suspend the rules. All those in favor will say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I want to be sure that everybody understands this setback issue is a red herring, because the setback issue of the by right house is 7.5 feet, and this new building is set back 15 feet on one side and 10 feet on the other. Yes, it went into the setback, but it's the setback of 25 feet of a single-family attached building type, and it would make no sense that the building would look ridiculous if it had 25 feet. I feel like we are a smart enough group to pass this project, to make Newton a model city to be copied by other cities in the state. Over the last several years, our legislature and legislatures all over the country have taken away local control of zoning from cities like ours. I think we can show people, I think Newton can show people that we don't need them to take our control away. We can do this. We can create housing, smaller units, 2,000 square feet, $1.5 million, a lot of money, I guarantee you that, I understand that, but it's not 5, 7, and $10 million. I hope that this council will act as the smart people that I know we are, the caring people that I know we are. And please don't use the setback as an issue. It's not an issue. This is an MR zone. The houses will be, the new house that's built by right, whatever it looks like, will most likely be closer than the current building that's proposed. And I really hope that we'll pass this project. It's a great project, and it looks wonderful in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. I have, I think, Councillor Lucas next, and Councillor Maliki, and then Councillor Leary.
Thank you, Mr. Acting President Baker. I voted no in committee. I'm going to vote no again tonight. Setbacks do matter. They matter when the people who live directly next to this project are saying we want the 25-foot setback. It's a trade-off. If you want the extra density of 3 or more units and single-family attached, there is a trade-off. One of those trade-offs is the setbacks. And they're telling us, we got another email today from another side abutter saying, I oppose the setbacks. We work for our residents. The other thing I want to say is 4 units is too many for this project. As I said during the 2 public hearings, 3 would be perfect for this site. We get an extra housing unit, we abide by the setbacks, And heck, if the developer would have proposed 3 units from the very beginning, the project would have already been under construction. I guarantee you that. This would have passed easily in one meeting at land use. The developer, in my opinion, made a mistake. They got greedy. They're going for 4. They're building into the setbacks. When I said at both public hearings, you need to bring the units down to 3 and not build in the setbacks. Plain and simple. And this would have already been well on its way. That didn't happen. 4 units is too many. One of the reliefs that they are seeking is lot area per unit. That is part of our zoning. It is listed as relief being sought. And a question I always ask myself, whenever someone seeks relief on lot coverage or lot area per unit, why does this particular developer or any petitioner deserve a density bonus? They're knocking down a house. There's no affordability component at all. We did approve Thurston Road. I think all of us voted for it, perhaps. That was at our last meeting. There was a waiver for lot area per unit and for lot coverage, but there was an affordability component. So in my opinion, that was fine. This one, not so much. So I am voting no. I urge everyone who is on the fence to vote no and send a message to this particular petitioner and to our residents who live here in Newtonville that we will abide by our rules and our setbacks and not grant this type of relief. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next have Councilor Maliki.
Thank you. So I don't want to be too repetitive, but I agree with many of the comments that have been made, particularly starting with Councilor Block, the issue about parking and the awkwardness of the underground parking spaces leading to people tending to park outside on the street in probably any decent weather, excepting snowy weather in winter and very hot weather in summer. Secondly, Councilor Wright's comment about it being a clean, tearing everything down, clean slate, new construction. I see no reason not to be able to adhere to the setbacks. To me, I would disagree that 2,000 square foot units are small units. They may sound small in relation to what we see getting built as some of the larger units of townhouses and certainly single-family houses, but it's bigger than my 1,700 or so square foot house. It's bigger than the smaller 800, 900,000, 1,200 square foot houses that people live in. So I don't see that it's impossible to build either smaller units or 3 units, as has been suggested, and create a smaller structure that complies with the setback. And I would just like to add, I guess, that I'm really disturbed at what I felt like we were getting, like hostage letters. Please approve this because.
Can you get closer to the mic for just a second?
What I felt were like hostage letters. Please approve this. It's going to be so much better than what they say they will build if you don't approve it. And I don't think we should be susceptible to that pressure. It's not a good practice. It will just lead to more of the same type of threatening type proposals. So I will be voting against this.
Thank you. Councilor Leary is next.
Thank you, Mr. Acting President. I am on the Land Use Committee, and this project came before us several times. There was a lot of work that went into it. I am going to be voting for this project, as I did in Land Use Committee, and some of the comments have already been made. The 25-foot setback does not make any sense with this project. It is beautiful. It fits into the neighborhood. 4 units is not excessive. We do have a housing crisis. We need housing. And housing in Newton is very, very expensive, as we know, and continues to grow. We need to develop more units. I mean, and I'll also say, there's never a perfect project. I mean, if this was more units, 5 or 6 smaller units, more affordable, there'd be more of them. And I think this is a good compromise. And I think this actually will fit into the neighborhood and will not cause disruption. So I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. I have President Oliver. Excuse me, Councilor Grossman next, sorry.
Great, thank you, President Emeritus Baker. As I mentioned in land use when I joined that meeting, I will be voting no on this project, not because it has 4 units, not because I have a problem with the underground parking. I believe this project represents what I consider to be a problem with our zoning. I don't know how many people in this room have already issued complaints about our existing zoning. I've heard a few already. This is a solution to the problem that is our zoning. I cannot vote for a project that I think is at least equally as bad as what could be built under our zoning, simply because that means I supported a project I can't stand for. I don't like this project. I think it will do adverse harm or will cause adversity in this neighborhood. It doesn't make sense to me. If this developer wants 4 units, I'm all for it. Make them 1,500 to 1,800 square foot units, things start to get a lot more palatable in terms of overall massing. The simple fact of the matter is, this isn't about the number of units for me. I intend to make a very smart decision on my own tonight and vote against this project. If we have a housing crisis, great, let's solve it. Let's go get the 4 units. You know the other problem we have in this city? Diversity of housing units. We've got plenty of 2,300 to 2,200 square foot units. What we don't have a ton of, or enough of, are the 18 to 2,000 square foot units, or even smaller, that are available for purchase on streets like Brookside. So if we continue to vote for projects like this, special permits, by the way, what we're basically saying is this is an acceptable end around to our zoning. I think what I'm hearing tonight is we'd rather fix our zoning than approve projects like this one. Again, I have no problem with 4 units here. I have a problem with 4 2,300, or whatever the average number is, that lead to this kind of project. What did I hear? It was like 9,600 square feet of building? It's a little large for this lot. Otherwise, I have no strong opinions about it. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Councilor Grossman next.
Thank you, Mr. Acting President. I just wanted to rise briefly to say that I am going to support this project. I went and I visited the street and the neighborhood and took in the context in the surrounding area and spent some time there. I think the design is really beautiful. I think in many years of debating our housing needs in the city among the council, one of the comments I've made a lot that we haven't really had a tool to address through our zoning is that, to me, design is really important. I've never had a problem with density of units, but I want it to fit in and be beautiful and have a welcoming feel. And sometimes we have projects that come before us, and I still think the density is okay, but the design might not be that nice. And in this case, I think the design is really beautiful, and I really do think that it fits in. I respectfully disagree that we have enough units that are 2,300 square feet. I actually think it's a really nice size for a family that could live really happily in one of these kinds of units and can't afford one of those $6-7 million houses, because I mean, our prices really are climbing in that region. So for those reasons, I am going to support this. Thanks.
Thank you. I have Councilor Getz, followed by Councilor Mickley, and then Councilor Farrell.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Acting President and our President Emeritus. I'd like to associate my comments with those that have spoken before me, Councilors Wright, Block, Gordon, Lucas, and Malicki. And I'm glad with this item having been chartered that everybody had an opportunity to visit this property, to go by Brookside Ave, and to appreciate the value of this street, and to appreciate the historic assets that are on this street. This, no one has mentioned this, this property is a circa 1888 Queen Anne. Okay, and if you stood in front of it, you would appreciate the amount of detail that's on this house. It's incredible. We've approved many single-family attached special permit processed houses through keeping the original and then building to the back, building all the attached units. We've seen this again and again and again. And I actually want to go through this and sort of figure out how many kept the original structure, because that's what's of value on this street. And you look next door and you see the same circa, the same era renovated property with the same setback. It's just gorgeous. But what's important to me here is, and people are speaking to, you know, what is wrong with our zoning. I sort of see this as single family attached is required to go through a special permit in all residential districts, all the SRs and all the MRs. It's a special permit process. So what controls the massing? It's the setbacks, because there's no FAR. FAR is not part of the equation. This is over FAR by 25% in terms of the actual construct that's being proposed, but that's not part of this equation. So what I consider is the respect for the rules that are in play when it is being permitted. If you require relief for the setback, you violated the rule. You need to stay in that lane when you're getting a single-family attached permitted process. And the only other thing that I would suggest is that, you know, I listen to the abutters that are going to be directly impacted, the immediate, the direct abutters and those that live on the street. And I weigh their concerns highly, because they're the ones that are going to be living through the construction and the redevelopment of these 4 units with these 8, you know, potentially 10 parking spaces on that lot. But the main piece for me is that I feel as if we need to revisit our zoning, because with these single family attached units that are being permitted need to respect the historic assets on the lots. Thank you.
Thank you. I now have Councilor Mickley, I believe. And also I have several councilors online whose hands are up, and the clerk has alerted me, so I'll get to you. So apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Acting President. So whether this project is beautifully designed, the right number of units, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever the right number is, whether the setbacks are too far, too little, what I think of those issues to me is secondary to what the residents in the ward think of those issues. I view the job of the ward counselor as representing the viewpoints of the residents of the ward as best as possible. And that isn't always possible. Sometimes it's hard to know what residents think about an issue. Sometimes there's a clear split. On this issue, there seems to be a pretty strong consensus that the residents of the neighborhood, the residents of the ward that I represent, are not in support of this project. They think it goes 1 unit too far, and they have a right to that opinion. And my job here is to represent that viewpoint here at City Hall. So for that reason, I'm going to vote to represent the viewpoint of the residents that I'm here to represent and not support this project. Thank you.
Okay, I believe now I can go to Councilor Farrell, then Councilor Kalis, and then Councilor Roach. And then Councilor Charm. I don't want to miss you, but I want to take some of the online people.
Thank you, Acting President. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'll try to make it brief. I have spoken with many residents on this street. I was invited to coffee a couple of months ago to meet with maybe a dozen of the residents, and I heard them express their concerns, and I shared my thoughts with them at that morning meeting, as I did during the very first hearing about this. And we are somewhat in disagreement about it. I mean, not about their opinion. Their opinion is legitimate. but about whether this should move forward. I believe the developer listened and, in fact, reduced the size, and that we have 4 smaller units that, while they might not be as low priced as we would like them to be, are in fact a very moderate price, relatively speaking. The design, I think the design is extraordinary. I can think of only one other building that came before special permit that was more in keeping with the neighborhood where it was proposed and with the environment within which it will live. And I think this is absolutely spectacular. I hope that if we approve this, that will encourage developers all over to, in fact, consider the neighborhood and the environment, as well as the opinions of residents, but consider the environment that the building will be in. Too often, we get buildings that are absolutely out of bounds with the rest of the neighbors on the street architecturally. I think this is will allow for families, hopefully younger families. Maybe they'll have some kids in going to school. They certainly will be able to access the village center nearby. Hopefully all of the things that many people keep talking about, reducing car traffic and so forth. So I'm in favor of this project, but what really I want to speak to at the moment is that when I hear ranking members of this council talk about a problem with zoning, and it talks about processes that they know are a problem. And I want to know, with all due respect, where those voices were during the special project process, even if it extended it a bit, even if we had to stay till later at night, but to help educate us about what the process is that you think is bad and how we're going to fix it. Not only for residents and developing the city, but for developers. Developers want to know, what is the process? What are the problems with zoning? And we need to start listening to them and stop changing the rules. Special permit exists to, in fact, allow differences from the zoning regulations, as I understand it. This project appealed for some special project exceptions, and I think that given that's what we talked about, and we asked for changes, they made changes. I think we've got to stop denying stuff once we've gone through a process. We got to make our processes work. Anyhow, going on longer than I should. I'm going to vote in favor of this, and I would love to work with all of the councilors who I don't think participated in this special permit process for this project, who didn't help educate those of us who would like to have heard from you months ago about what your specific concerns were. And I'd like to know from the zoning committee when you are going to start listening to these issues and getting resolutions to the problems that some of your members have just addressed. Anyhow, thank you, Acting President. I'm voting in favor of this.
Thank you. Let me just reset the timer. I now have Councilor Kalis, followed by Councilor Roach.
Thank you, Mr. Acting President. So I do realize this is a special permit, but at the same time, I am very frustrated by developers going way beyond the boundaries of our zoning. I mean, to me, asking for some relief is totally acceptable. Working with the community, I think, is very important. But what I'm hearing here is that they've gone way beyond the boundaries of zoning. To me, it sounds like many of my colleagues are putting design as a standard over zoning, which to me is a big problem. And there's no affordability. I mean, to argue that 1.5 to 1.7 million is a good price, I mean, that's an expensive house. We need to be encouraging these developers to be putting more units on these properties and helping them shape that so they're smaller than, I mean, 2,300 is bigger than my house too. It's huge. We don't need that much. We need smaller units, and this is what we've been arguing for years. And I just can't believe that um, what I'm hearing is colleagues want to approve this, where I think we're encouraging the wrong behavior from developers. I think this will have a negative impact on the street, the community. I'm not for it.
Thank you. Councilor Roach. You're muted, Councilor Roach. Can you unmute?
Yep. Good evening. Thank you, President Baker. There are a lot of interesting issues, and how we can encourage the generation of smaller homes is, I think, critical, but it's just not germane today. And I think Councilor Gordon really got to the heart of this issue, which is we don't have the choice between the developer making smaller units, smaller four homes, and we don't have the choice of 3 homes. The choice is between, and it always is a choice between what is available by right and what is what the requested relief is under the special permit. What the by right development options does by making that explicit, it provides context for this project and for the decision we have. And the question is whether the developer who has made concessions in terms of design to fit in with the visual character of the neighborhood has done enough with the design, with the changes to make the overall size of the building smaller, to make the home smaller, whether that is enough to persuade us that this is a better project for the neighborhood than the by right alternative. Change is coming to Brookside Avenue, and the change is either going to come in the form of a building that looks like other homes on the street, or a building that looks like all of the homes that have been built, the teardowns, the white sides with the black windows. And I am convinced that on this street, the 4 homes in a building that fits in with the visual character of the neighborhood is a better option. We'd like to have smaller homes. These will be smaller than the alternative. We'd like to have larger setbacks, given the rights that the developer has by right. There's some leverage there. And so as much as we might like something else, the choices are this or the by right alternative. And I think this is better for the street, better for the neighborhood, and better for the city overall. I am going to vote yes, as I did in committee, and I hope that more of my colleagues will. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Charm, I think, is up next. Anyone else? I just want to make sure.
Thank you, Acting President Baker. This project really makes me scratch my head in so many ways, because when we talk about housing, there are so many things that we say we want. We say we want the developers to be listening to the community. This is one where the developer has made many revisions and has made many concessions in response to the neighborhood. We say that we want smaller units. As we have established, these units are smaller than they would be by right. Yes, they're not 1,500 square feet, but they're a much more manageable size for the price per square foot that new homes in Newton are making today. That makes them another thing that we want, which is starter homes for young families who have kids. And if we were to just be, letting these homes and these designs, be by right, they would be larger. That price would be higher, and that would be even less accessible to many of the neighbors that we are hoping to welcome in and into our schools and our community. We say we want off-street parking with 2 spots per unit. This is one that the developer, I think, got very creative to hide 8 parking spots. I mean, it's astonishing from the street. You would never think that there would be 8 parking spots underneath. I think that's a huge benefit. And then we also, say that we want people to be keeping in mind setbacks and massing. And so I was a little concerned about the setbacks and massing. And like many of my colleagues, I drove over to Brookside, took a look at the street, and one of the things that really struck me was that there is a building that just went up that is a direct abutter, and I looked it up. It has a 5-foot setback against this property line from one of the direct abutters, and it went up 2 years ago. So the massing is very similar to the neighbors on the other side of the street. So it feels to me like those are hollow arguments. And when I think about all the things that we do want, the smaller size, the off-street parking, the starter homes, the lower price, those are things that make me want, and yes, the design. I think it would help to make it maintain this as a beautiful street. I think those are the things that we want. I support this project, and I urge my colleagues to support it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, I'm going to yield the chair back to the president. I think he's finished speaking. So the order I have so far, Mr. President, are Councilor Silver, Councilor Golden, and then let's see who else, including yours truly.
Yep.
And this is the clerk's timer.
Great. Thank you, President Emeritus Baker. There are some words you just have a problem enunciating. There you go. All right, I believe I'm on to Councilor Silber. Is that correct?
Thank you, President. So I just want to say briefly, the whole process of this has really been one where I've heard a lot of confusion from residents and reacting in fear. And that doesn't always make me feel super encouraged about a project. It makes me feel like there's a lot of things going on in the background that I may not appreciate and I may not feel comfortable with if it were my neighborhood. And I respect what the neighbors have to say, because ultimately when we decide to allow a change in our zoning for a special permit, we're effectively placing that cost on the neighbors. That's what we're doing. I mean, there's really no other way around it. I also don't hear very much from my constituents about wanting more density. I just don't hear it. Maybe I'm not talking to the right constituents, but I don't hear a cry all the time for more, 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 more. What I hear is we're going to choke on all the development that's coming our way. And for that reason, and I guess the final reason being that I don't love to be scared into approving something. especially when the alternative is actually less concerning and less impactful on the direct abutters. So for that reason, I'm going to be voting no.
Thank you. Councilor Golden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to be voting yes to advance the project. And I want to say that in the context of being very respectful and appreciative of the arguments on both sides tonight. There isn't one pro and one con that I did not agree with here. So there's a little bit of a creative tension going on in my head. But there are a lot of subjective calls. We assign our own subjective determinations to each one of these pros and cons and weight things differently. And when I look at the things that I really care about, I'm weighting things like design, I'm weighting things like the number of units more heavily. It is impossible for me to lose sight of how important it is to grow the number of units, not just in Newton, but in the Commonwealth as a whole. Some estimates are we're 200,000 units behind where we need to be. Some believe it's more closer to 400,000. For me, both of those are big numbers, and both of them deserve consideration and need to be addressed, no matter where on the spectrum you think we are with regard to the requirement to build for human beings. This is, at the end of the day, we talk a lot about sticks and stones, and they are important. The sticks and stones are the buildings, but I'm really focused on the human beings who need housing, not just here, but throughout the Commonwealth. The setback incursion is a concern, and that brings me to your point, Mr. President, on the need to address zoning. I take that very seriously, but where you and I differ is I do not want to forego opportunities that are here right now in the hope that we will get a more comprehensive zoning solution further down the road, because I don't know when that's going to be. I want to take advantage of opportunities that are here, opportunities that are reasonable, opportunities that will yield quality housing for people who desperately need it here, as well as 351 cities and towns throughout the Commonwealth. And finally, IDP units, inclusionary development units, whether it's deed restricted affordability or income restricted affordability on rentals, I would like to see a lot more of those units sort of populate our agenda than we are currently seeing, and that's true in so many places. But whether or not there is an income restricted unit being offered by the developer, that does not undercut or obviate the need for the sheer numbers of units. All along the socioeconomic spectrum, we need more units. And if I can get 4 quality units, well-designed units that I think fit in with the neighborhood, the character of the neighborhood, and by even permitting an incursion into the setback, I do not see this particular situation as presenting a profoundly harmful or deleterious impact when it comes to abutters on the subject of setbacks. So when I weigh the variety of factors, I come down pretty firmly on this particular project in favor of creating the units in this environment, in this type of quality that I think will ultimately benefit the city and the neighborhood. So thanks very much.
Thank you. I think that is your first time speaking, sir.
Thank you.
Surprised you with that one, didn't we? Yeah, you thought we forgot. I see. We see you. Okay. Councilor Baker.
So this is a very difficult project, as you all heard, because of so many issues being raised and persuasive arguments on both sides. I just want to address several, and if I end up not supporting the item, I will tell you the reason why, but I still want to think about it. The special permit process requires us to weigh the public benefit against certain criteria. And the key one for me here are two of them. The specific site is an appropriate location for such use or structure, and the use as developed and operated will not adversely affect the neighborhood. And the ordinance goes on to say, the City Council shall not approve any application for a special permit unless it finds that said application complies in all respects with the requirements of this chapter. So it, I think, puts a burden of persuasion on the applicant to satisfy all of the standards as well as to satisfy public benefit. Now, obviously, many members of the council have articulated important public benefits that the project can serve, but other members of the council have articulated some of the problems with the use as the site has developed. There's one other aspect that I think is important. Nowhere in our ordinance does it speak to what the by right alternative is by comparison. Certainly that's in the background, I suspect, of some of the public benefit conversation, but it is not an explicit standard. So I have to weigh it against the criteria, and I have heard concerns raised and that I think legitimate about setbacks and some of the access, and therefore if I end up not supporting it because of those issues articulated by colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I have Councilor Wright next. And I haven't seen any other hands, so as of right now, Councilor Wright is our is somebody online with their hand up? No, I don't see any other hands. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to point out that these units are 4 or 5 bedroom, 2.5 or 3.5 baths. I don't consider that a starter home. I had my starter home was 1,200 square feet, 2.5 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. That's a starter home, not something this size. And also, I'll stop there. Thanks.
Fantastic. All right. I believe that brings us to the conclusion of our conversation around item 104-26. I think it behooves us to take a roll call vote here. And just for the record, those of you who have not stated why you're voting no, if you're voting no, please do so when you vote. Thank you.
Councilor Albright.
Aye.
Councilor Baker.
No.
Councilor Baker, do you want to offer a reason for the no?
In my comments.
And I do mean for those, just to be very clear, the law department needs to be able to review the record and the recording tonight. Anyone who does vote no, should this item not be approved or rejected, they have to be able to explain all of our individual reasons why we voted no. So if you've already explained it, there's no need to go into further detail. But I have heard a couple of folks who may vote no who were less than clear as to why they were voting no.
Councilor Bixby.
Aye.
Councilor Block.
No.
Councilor Charm.
Aye.
Councilor Damabad.
Aye.
Councilor Farrell.
You're on mute, sir.
Councilor Farrell, you're muted.
He's trying to trick us. You're still muted, right?
Councilor Farrell, we can live with a thumbs up or a thumbs down here.
Aye.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Getz.
No.
Councilor Golden.
Aye.
Councilor Gordon.
No.
Councilor Greenberg.
Aye.
Councilor Grossman.
Aye.
Councilor Irish.
Aye.
Counselor Kalis.
No. I think it sets a bad precedent for the street.
Counselor Kelly.
Aye.
Counselor Krinsman.
Aye.
Counselor Leary.
Aye.
Counselor Lucas.
No.
Counselor Maliki.
No.
Counselor Mickley.
No.
Counselor Roach.
Aye.
Counselor Silber.
No.
Counselor Wright.
No.
President Oliver.
No.
On this vote, the ayes are 13, the nays are 11. This motion is subject to a 16-vote affirmative threshold. Motion fails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. All right, our next and final item for this evening is item 130-26. This is 1100 to 1102 Beacon. I believe this was put on second call, but I'm not sure I know who put it on second. Councilor Maliki. I believe we've already read this project into the record, so I don't think we need to go back to that. However, if we do, please have that handy. Councilor Maliki, if you wouldn't mind kicking us off on this item.
Sure, and I'll try to keep it to the 3 minutes.
Right into that microphone, please.
All right, let's try to get it at the right height, and I will try not to pop any P's. So I guess I want to start off with some of the arguments for it that I've heard that do not resonate with me. I've heard at least one person say, this property is an eyesore the way it is. I don't want to factor that in. To me, that's rewarding. Neglecting a property, rewarding, leaving buildings empty. I've heard the owner is unable to get a reasonable offer as a commercial property. To me, if you have a property in Newton and you can't sell it, the price is too high. Reasonable is in the eye of the beholder. I don't feel it is our job to sort of be the wish fulfillment people, making a property worth what somebody thinks it should be worth instead of what it is in current market. I've also heard many people say it's more housing, it's 4 units, but we could make that argument about any of the properties on this stretch of Beacon Street that are currently zoned commercial. Everything we do tends to be cited as a precedent for the next thing that comes along that's similar. We've already heard in the most recent meeting, the petitioner referenced 1114 Beacon as a precedent for 100% residential with 1.25 parking spaces per unit. If we approve this, we'll not only be losing a potential space for a business, we'll be kind of signaling to all the other property owners on the properties next door, the properties down the block, and I can list them if people are interested, that are currently business use, but could potentially want to do the same thing. And that is depleting what the 2018 pattern book itself called then both a business center and a village center. It's not a village center as we think of our 13 villages, but it's got a critical mass of currently zoned commercial property and a variety of small businesses. Even during the discussion of this item, I heard people saying, what a shame we're losing commercial property. I hear that a lot, but as I've said before, we can't keep bemoaning the loss of commercial property and voting to give it up. I think we ought to be incentivizing the retention of commercial property. I regret that 1114 Beacon, we did not hold out for mixed use on that much larger property.
Are you all set, Counselor? You're at 3 minutes.
I'm pretty close. I think I've made my point, and I will be voting against it. Thank you.
No, thank you. I have Counselor Lucas, followed by Counselor Wright.
It's already turned on. Thank you, President Oliver. Yes, again, I think we've seen this movie before. I voted against this in committee. I'm going to vote against it again tonight. It's simple. It's, as Councilor Maliki just said, this is a village center, not one of the official 13 village centers, but it is still a village center. This is an ideal location right in Four Corners for either mixed use development or commercial development. We need to protect our business use zones, and we have to make sure that they have a commercial enterprise or a mixed use development. That's why I voted against this. Nothing more, nothing less. I would have been happy to work with the petitioner if they were doing the live-work use that they initially presented earlier this term, but they withdrew that, and they're going for all housing. I think it's very short-sighted to go to all housing in this location, literally next to a gas station and another commercial enterprise. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Counselor Wright, followed by Counselor Kelly.
I dislike the idea of using commercial property for housing. Non-housing projects help more with the city finances than residential projects. But this is a unique situation. This is a very small lot, 5,331 square feet, and no street parking on either side. It is a difficult place for a business. It abuts a gas station and a small business, and then large housing projects across the street and 2 doors down. I think it's not out of context. Four Corners is not one of their 13 village centers, where I probably would have had a different answer, where we need to protect our retail commercial so much more. It meets the setback requirements. It's asking for a special permit for 35.4 feet of height, where 48 feet is allowed by special permit. Residential is typically 36 feet. The houses behind this lot are on a small hill above the lot, and the added height on this project should not be an issue. I will support this project.
Counselor Kelly, followed by Counselor Leary.
Thank you, Mr. President. Because I haven't given like a little recap of the project, this is the first time on second call. I'm going to do a little bit of that before I give you my opinion and how I'm going to vote on it. After coming before the city 3 times in 2025, with owners stating that they had been unable to sell the site for commercial use despite trying for 5 to 6 years, after which they withdrew the petition in December 2025. In 2026, the proposal for 4 3-story, 3-bedroom units came to land use 4 times in attempts to get a successful residential or combined residential commercial development. That's 7 visits to land use so far for this project, in case you're not doing the math at your seats. The site is surrounded by mixed uses of an office building, a Whole Foods supermarket, Walgreens, a small-scale retail strip, a gas station, single and multifamily unit residential buildings, all at Four Corners in walking distance to Cold Spring Park and Mason Rice School. Based on suggestions by some councilors, including Councilor Lucas, the petitioner changed the originally proposed use from residential to live-work units, with residential on the upper floors and commercial on the first floor. This was actually an exciting idea for us to consider, and we did look into it. It's something that all of us should be thinking about, but in this case, after analysis, the committee felt that, the majority of the councilors felt that commercial on the first floor at this site, as Councilor Wright said, to very limited parking, only 1 space per of the 4 units, was not going to be tenable for the goal of increasing foot traffic, sidewalk vitality, and increasing commercial development in any significant way. It also posed parking problems. So on July 21st, the land use voted 6-2 in favor, and I believe, which is so unusual here, we all should applaud this, I believe all 3 Ward 6 councilors are in agreement with that decision, and I will be voting in favor of it.
Thank you. I have Councilors Leary, Gordon, followed by Block.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be brief. I'm going to associate my comments with Councilor Wright and Councilor Kelly. This has been a frustrating project for me. As has been noted, it's been before land use multiple times on different iterations. It is not a viable commercial space. That's just a dead stop. It's not going to happen. I don't want to see that vacant for another 6 or 7 years. That's how long it's been vacant so far. And actually, I think it's an ideal location for residential, has been mentioned, with being near a beautiful park, Cold Spring Park, and the Zervis School down the street, and a grocery store, and walking to 2 village centers. So I will be supporting this, and I hope never to see it again.
Fabulous. Thank you. Councilor Gordon, followed by Councilor Block.
Thank you, Mr. President. This site was the site of one of my first jobs. It was a veterinary clinic when I was growing up, and I've watched it turn into other things since then. I'm speaking because, generally speaking, I do not support converting commercial to residential. I didn't agree with the decision when they decided to put housing at the corner of Jackson and Boylston that had a sushi man and a Chinese restaurant. I wanted that to be mixed use. It's housing. I wouldn't have supported Northland when they said, oh, poor me, I can't build commercial. I wasn't a big fan of the Apchugung project either, which is the big housing complex that's, one space over from this. However, I do think it is a unique area, and I think someone living there, I'm sure, will appreciate the amenities that are nearby. I think it enhances that area, actually, and so I am supporting this. Thank you.
Great. Councilor Block, followed by Councilor Getz. And those are the only hands I've seen. Oh.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be brief. I definitely want to associate myself with remarks from Councilor Leary that we never see this again after this vote. I share that. In committee, I voted against this project. I'll be voting against this project tonight. This is a very complicated parcel. As Councilor Kelly said, it came before the Land Use Committee 7 times. That should tell you how complicated it is. I draw the line on the parking. Whether this is residential, whether this is commercial, they need to solve a parking problem. There's no parking on Beacon Street. There's no parking on Walnut Street. Any visitor, I'm not sure where they're going to park in a reasonable distance to get to this location. It just does not feel right to me. I regret that. I wish there were a more obvious use for this property, but it may take merging with some adjacent property in order to make use of this parcel. But I can't support this proposal as presented. Thank you very much.
Councilor Getz, followed by Councilor Silber, then Roach.
Hi, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to give everybody a sense of the location of this parcel. It's one off of the intersection of Beacon and Walnut. So it's right next to the gas station, so that people understand the proximity to that very dense and busy intersection. We've seen quite a bit of residential redevelopment in Four Corners, with 2 BU lots being converted. The one at 114 Beacon Street, the one that's been mentioned, as well as the BU1 lot on the other side of Whole Foods at 1062 Beacon, being converted from BU to 100% residential. I believe that this parcel should be an opportunity for mixed use, if not left at 100% commercial. The lot that surrounds it, behind it, has a significant amount of available parking in that. So as Councillor Block is suggesting, there needs to be some sort of symbiosis or some sort of worked out relationship for parking for that parcel. I actually supported the VCOD that was being considered for Four Corners. This parcel was designated as one of 5 on a priority street. This section of Beacon Street was considered a priority street, and with that, it means it needs to be kept as commercial on the first floor with the potential for residential above. So I will not be supporting this petition because I believe that some commercial needs to be presented as viable in this area of Four Corners.
Councillor Silber, followed by Councillor Roach.
I just want to say this, I've only really seen this, I think, once, and I found it a confusing proposition, but at the same point, I think commercial is struggling along that piece, and I think the city would end up making more money with that as residential than with it sitting unused. And I just don't really see what else we can do with it. I just don't see where it would get merged into. So I'm puzzled as to whom will live here and how they will get places, but I guess that's not really our problem, so I will be in favor of this.
Interesting twist of logic there at the end. I like that. Councillor Roach, and then I don't see any other hands in the room or online, so I think this might be our last speaker on this item. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Maliki.
I wish to associate myself with the comments of Councilors Wright, Gordon, and Silber. I will be voting yes.
I didn't even get a chance to start my timer. You're done? Anyway.
I'd like to an additional 5 minutes. I'm done.
Fantastic. Assuming you are kidding, Councillor Maliki.
Yes, I'd just like to take issue with the idea that it's not viable for commercial. It was commercial for decades. I think since approximately, I'm guessing 2004 or so, as the as the dry cleaners and also a tailor. I recall getting my first suits when I first ran, getting taken up there. Dry cleaners may have gone out of fashion, but tailors have not. And there are other businesses, as I mentioned, that are surviving on that stretch. And I just would like to list them. Next door at 1106 to 1108, that's another small building. That's the one with the parking behind it, but also with parking in front. There's a nail studio, there's a Pilates and gyrotechnic studio, there's the owner's, Marilyn Bazzuto's electrolysis, laser skin rejuvenation, another skincare business, an acupuncture and nourishment counseling person, and a licensed social worker all have apparently offices in that building. We've got, I'll skip the Citizens Bank because that's sort of a one thing with their decent-sized parking lot, but down the street at 1134, 1136, there's, actually that's on the other side, Scafidi Brothers Market and Deli and Boston Vegan. There are 2 buildings that appear to be contiguous, but they're actually 2 different addresses. 1138 to 1142 has Mano Thai, Four Corners Pizza, Newton Wine and Spirits. 1144 to 1152 has Hans Dry Cleaners, a Salon de Cinzio, a Dunkin', and the Newton Pediatric Dentistry and Orthodontics, which is a rather bigger space. So those are some of the businesses that are there now. And these are the ones, these are the type of small spaces that will be at risk if we follow the pattern that we're likely to do tonight and allow a tear down with replacement with no commercial in it. That sort of cascading effect of loss of business one after another, that's going to diminish the choices for the people who do live there and the choices for the people who work in the office buildings. There's the one kitty corner across the street on the northeast corner. There's the office building somewhat to the west of these. So it's not just residents, it's people who work in those businesses who are going to have less businesses to go to. So I would urge that we not set the pattern of losing small business spaces and defaulting to a situation where all that's left is national businesses.
Councillor Bixby.
I wasn't going to speak because it's really hot in here and it's getting late. But very quickly, as the ward councillor, unfortunately in that list, I do know at least one that has gone out of business. And as ward councillor, I did just want to offer my support for welcoming a few new folks to the neighborhood to support all of those businesses, the businesses in Newton Highlands and Newton Center that are a quick walk, bus ride, or bike ride away. And so I will be voting in favor. Thank you.
All right, I believe now I don't see any further hands. All right, there we go. We go to, and by the way, I should also just mention, this item also is 2/3. It requires 16 votes to pass. Roll call vote, please, sir.
Councillor Albright.
Aye.
Councillor Baker.
Aye.
Councillor Bixby.
Aye.
Councillor Block.
No.
Councillor Charm.
Aye.
Councillor Damabad.
Aye.
Councillor Farrell.
Aye.
Councillor Getz.
No.
Councillor Golden. Councillor Gordon.
Aye.
Councillor Greenberg.
Aye.
Councillor Grossman.
Aye.
Councillor Irish.
Aye.
Councillor Kalis.
Aye.
Councillor Kelly.
Aye.
Councillor Krinsman.
Aye.
Councillor Leary.
Aye.
Councillor Lucas.
No.
Councillor Maliki.
No.
Councillor Mickley.
Aye.
Councillor Roach.
Aye.
Councillor Silber.
Aye.
Councillor Wright.
Aye.
President Oliver.
No. And by the way, just for the record, even though this item is going to pass, I'm going to be looking at the first condition. I believe this would adversely impact the neighborhood.
On this vote, the ayes are 19, the nays are 5. Motion carries.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for sticking through the sticky evening. But thank you again to Councilors Albright, Damabad, Lucas, and Mickley for the entertainment kicking us off this evening. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Thanks, everyone. Have a lovely night.
Recording stopped.
Yes. Yes. I mean, that's something that I want us to all